Well, Amazon and Blue Origin founder Jeff Bezos, along with 3 others, will blast off into the edge of space tomorrow. Bezos' New Shepard spacecraft will reach a slightly higher altitude from Richard Branson than what he did last week. Bezos' Blue Origin spacecraft has had 15 successful test flights thus far, but it's the first time it's launching a civilian crew. Mark Strassman is in Van Horn, Texas, with the very latest on this. Standing by, Mark. So this is really exciting stuff. I think we should maybe a little bit start with the basics so people kind of understand the difference between what they saw last week with Richard Branson and what they're going to see with Jeff Bezos. It's a different type of takeoff, but they're both going to sort of end up not in space necessarily. They call it a suborbital launch. But how are the two vehicles, I guess, different?
Hey, Marie, you're right. There are enormous differences. And you know, here in the vast emptiness of West Texas, you have plenty of room to do anything, including build a spaceport if you got the kind of money that Jeff Bezos has. His approach really is different. He's going to launch on a rocket. You'll recall that last week Richard Branson went up to the edge of space flying inside a space plane. Bezos will go about 9 or 10 miles higher than Richard Branson did, and then he'll also come back to Earth much faster. The Branson flight was, you know, roughly an hour. Bezos will be up there for all of 10 minutes. One of the other key differences, too, is that Virgin Galactic had launched people before, pilots and so forth, on test flights. Blue Origin has never launched people before. So Bezos is really, you know, literally putting himself on the line by saying, my company is now ready to do this safely. And he's taking, you know, he's not only up, he's taking his brother, 2 other folks, of course, are going up as well. And so it's going to be another milestone, really, Emery, in this sort of emerging market of space tourism, because that's what this is. This is just a joyride. There's not science involved here. It's up and down, 10 minutes, and a huge price tag. Remember, somebody at auction paid $28 million. $28 million for a 10-minute ride. The prices are not going to be that high going forward, but they're going to be well beyond the reach of your typical person.
Right. Well, you know, when you only have a handful of passengers on board and they all got to divide the cost, it's going to be pretty expensive. The other thing about this launch that's different from last week is that this is fully automated, and this is kind of the way Bezos is kind of developing his product, for lack of a better word. But, you know, there's got to be concerns here. What are people double checking as it gets closer and closer to launch date?
You're right, it is fully automated. The passengers inside the Blue Origin capsule do nothing at all. They're completely, they're just passengers, just like you're riding in an airplane. It's not like you have any control over that either. The safety issue, of course, is a genuine issue for any space flight, not just Blue Origin, but anybody in the space business will tell you safety is really job one. They believe here that they have it down. Their engineer in charge of safety yesterday was saying, we will prioritize safety as number one. We believe we've gone through the entire checklist. We're go for launch, assuming there's no weather or no last-minute issue on tomorrow morning, that they are going to go up. So about 9 a.m. Eastern time on Tuesday morning, up they go. And, you know, fingers crossed, of course, everybody hopes it goes completely safely.
Yeah. So, you know, shuttling very wealthy tourists to the edge of space and back down again is actually not the point of Blue Origin. Jeff Bezos has kind of a big master plan of where he'd like to see space travel go, and there are actually a couple more launches that are set up for later on this year. Do we know, you know, how those launches may be different than this one?
Yeah, the ones, there are 2 other flights that Blue Origin is going to make later this year. Those are both also just tourist flights. They're going to send 4 people up in each. Sorry. 4 people up in each. And but they have grander ambitions going forward. I mean, they have the space tourism business, but they also have plans to go into deep space, and that's a completely separate business that they're into. This is really a niche market. It's just send people up who can afford to do it. They believe that the price is going to come down eventually as they increase the number of capsules and rockets as they have more regular flights. Economies of scale kick in, and then the flights become cheaper. Not cheap, but cheaper. And so we'll have to see just how cheap, how low they can go, because the fact is, look, for most people, this is, space is still science fiction, the access to space. But for a chunk of folks who have that kind of bank, they now have the option of going up, which is, let's face it, until now in the history of space voyaging, it's only been for astronauts, and now that's no longer the case.
Yeah, I know there's a bit of a debate as to whether or not the people who are able to pay for these tickets and fly to the edge of space and come back down, should they be officially called astronauts? Branson got his little wings, but is that really what an astronaut is? But I digress on that. It's like finally we've come to this kind of pivotal point when it comes to space tourism. We have three very wealthy men who are, back to back to back going to be able to sort of launch whoever can afford it, people that can afford it, into space. Why the big push for space tourism now? Why are we seeing it happening now? And you talked about bringing the price down, and certainly because of the investment that we've seen from private industry into space travel, we've seen the price of heading into space go down, but it's, as you point out, it's still incredibly expensive. So I guess it's a twofold question. Why are we seeing space tourism kind of launch into the spotlight now? And realistically, how long does anyone think it would take to bring the price down to the point where, kind of normal people could do it?
Well, two really good questions. On the first one, look, in this new commercial age of space, one of the more high-minded goals is the democratization of space. That is, you make space accessible, in theory, to anyone and everyone who wants to go. It's not just for professional astronauts. If you can do it safely, you send everyday folks up who just like you, go to, on vacation somewhere else. This is just sort of like one of the ultimate vacation selfies, I guess you could call it. So there's that aspect. The other aspect, of course, is that look, this is a business, right? I mean, these are ultra successful business people that they've identified this as a new market, and I think they genuinely believe that going forward, that the economies of scale will kick in. They will be able to turn a profit on this. I don't think they're interested in necessarily subsidizing other people's space vacations. They're just interested in launching a market that has profit potential. On your second question, right. Will this price ever come down? I mean, who knows? It's hard to see it from here, but I'm not in this business. Branson told me last week he genuinely believes that at some point, for now the wealthy subsidize the cost of this thing, and then going forward the price comes down, and then more people will be able to afford it. What's the definition of more people? How wealthy do you have to be for your chance to go up? We'll learn that going forward, but it is hard to imagine that the price is going to get to the point where your typical American family can afford to go up, at least no time soon. I mean, way down the road? Okay, maybe. But I mean, for the foreseeable future, this is going to be an option for people who have two things. One, a passion for space. Two, a big bank account. Yeah, and three, the desire to launch themselves off the planet. That's also a factor. Hopefully there are enough multi-millionaires out there that want to do it to keep this thing going. Mark Strassman, thank you very much. You bet.